another video for you, but there is a bit digression in the field. So far I was creating my video lectures on literary theory, but today the video lecture is on history of English literature. You see, the reason behind that was that so many students actually text me the message regarding this video. And I also personally feel, you see, when I meet my BA1 class, when I go to the class, interact with my students, then I always recommend two books for the background reading. One is History of English Literature by W.J. Rome, and the other is A Glossary of Literary Terms by M.H. Abrams. Those who study it thoroughly, they have the full knowledge of literature, the basics at least. But even then, I mean, at the PG level, I find that when I evaluate the answer books, some students commit the mistakes as far as the errors are concerned. For example, if they are writing reference to the context portion, so they write these lines are taken from the poem Dover Beach written by Matthew Arnold, a romantic poet, Daffodils written by William Wordsworth, a Victorian poet, and such kind of things. Actually, they get confused regarding the eras, regarding the periods. So this video actually I'm preparing for those students who do not have the clear concept of the periods of English literature. So in this video lecture, I'll discuss the various periods, starting from Anglo-Saxon period to the postmodern period. This video lecture will not be very large, very in short. I will discuss all the periods, their dates, and also some important writers. It will not be an easy task for me to discuss the features of those periods that I'll discuss in some other video lecture, but I'll discuss the periods, the names of the periods, the time period, and also the important writings which took place during that period. So let us now start with the first literary period, which is called Anglo-Saxon period. Anglo-Saxon period. Now, this Anglo-Saxon period is from 450 to 1066. Now, those who are preparing for different competitive examinations, they will note down the dates also, because these dates are very often asked in the examination, that what is this date of the Anglo-Saxon period. This is 450 to 1066. Now, this Anglo-Saxon period is also known as Old English period. Now, this Anglo-Saxon period actually continues till the end of Roman occupation and the Norman conquest. Now, the question may come in our mind that who were these Anglo-Saxons? So, these Anglo-Saxons were the peoples who invaded, settled in the south and east of Britain in the years following the withdrawal of Roman legions. And who were these main groups or the tribes? Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. So you will remember these names. These tribes who attacked Britain and ruled there till 1066. So Anglo-Saxon period is also called Old English period, and the time period is 450 to 1066. What about some literary work? Now, you see, if you see the entire structure of English literature or British literature, so we have Old English period, Middle English period, and the modern period, that is which begins from Renaissance. But I have classified it, divided into too many sections, many periods, so that you will have the better understanding. Now, during this period, that is during Anglo-Saxon or Old English period, we have a few important poems. The Wanderer, for example, the Seafarer, for example. But this period is known for this text, Beowulf. It's an anonymous, actually, authorship is not known, but it is sometimes asked in the examination also. Coming to Middle English period, or you can call it Anglo-Norman period. So the first period is Anglo-Saxon or Old English period, and the second is
Middle English period or Anglo-Norman period. The time period is very important, 1066 to 1500. Now, this 1066 date is, very important historical date, and it is also asked in the examination that in 1066, Norman French armies invaded and conquered England under William Fuss. This marks the end of Anglo-Saxon hierarchy. So, Anglo-Saxon period, which started from 450 to 1066, when Norman conquest took place, we have the end of the Anglo-Saxon hierarchy, and the Normans came to Britain. So we have now Anglo-Norman period. So Norman conquest, the conquest of England by William of Normandy, William the Conqueror, and this Battle of Hastings in 1066, very important date. Now, this period, which is also sometimes known as the Dark, Age, Middle Age, there was some, prominent writers who started writing. Mention may be made of Chaucer, Thomas Malory, and Langland. I think if you are a student of literature, so you are very much familiar with the name of Geoffrey Chaucer, who is also called the father of English poetry. And at PG level, most of you must have studied Prologue to the Canterbury Tales. He has written the remarkable work, Canterbury Tales, and the prologue is usually prescribed at PG level in different universities. Prologue, which contains in itself the history of the 14th century England. We have Thomas Malory and we have Langland, who is famous for his Piers Plowman. So whenever you are discussing this, Middle English period or this Anglo-Norman period, from 1066 to 1500, you will mention the name of Chaucer, Malory, Langland, and the others. Now, coming to the modern period, that is Renaissance. Renaissance is the time period is 1500 to 1660. So I told you two periods: Anglo-Saxon period from 450 to 1066, then Anglo-Norman period 1066 to 1500. Anglo-Saxon period, which is known as Old English period, and Anglo-Norman period, which is also known as Middle English period. Now, coming to modern period, that is Renaissance. Renaissance is time period is 1500 to 1660. Now, it was a glorious time in the field of English literature. Very good production of literature. Now, this period of Renaissance, can be divided into four parts. We have four subdivisions also. So, Elizabethan age, very important age, and this is the time period 1558 to 1603. As the name suggests, that Queen Victoria ascended on English throne in the year 1558. She continued till 1603. So, the time period after the name of Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth, is Elizabethan age, 1558 to 1603. Then comes the Jacobean age from 1603 to 1625. Then the Caroline age, 1625 to 1649. And then the Commonwealth period, 1649 to 1660. Now, these four important periods very often asked in the examination, and the concept must always be clear. Now, you see, I will not be able to, discuss in elaborate manner all the, different ages, but very briefly, I'm telling about these ages so that you will have in mind the concept of the different writers who were writing during that period. Elizabethan age, as I had just told you, from 1558 to 1603. After the name of Queen Elizabeth, the golden, age of drama. It was. The writers were very prolific, but we found drama flourishing too much in Elizabethan age. Now, this particular age is remarkable for Christopher Marlowe. I think Dr. Faustus, you are studying at PG level. Christopher Marlowe, who remarkable for his Dr. Faustus, Stamberlin, Jew of Malta, and also for the use of the blank verse, which is called his mighty line. This age is also remarkable for the prose writing of Francis Bacon, and you are very much familiar with his aphoristic, style. Edmund Spenser also, who wrote Epithalamion, Prothalamion, You are also familiar with Walter Raleigh and obviously William Shakespeare. So these are the important, writers of the Elizabethan age. Coming to Jacobean age. Jacobean age is from 1603 to 1625. Jacobean is after the name of after the reign of James First. Actually, this is James First is basically Jacobus. Okay, and that is why it is called Jacobean age. So Jacobean age is after the reign of King James First. So this is the time of James First, 1603 to 1625, and that is why this age is called Jacobean age. Now, during Jacobean age, Shakespeare also did some of his writings. Metaphysical poet John Donne, Drayton, Webster, who is remarkable for his Duchess of Malfi, Elizabeth Cary, Ben Jonson, known for his comedy of humors, Lady Mary Roth. And one important thing is the translation of the Bible. So the authorized version of the Bible also took place during this period. The authorized version of the Bible, which took place in the year 1611. So this is again a very important era. Caroline age, 1625 to 1649, after the reign of Charles I, who is called Carolus, just as Jacobus, it is Carolus. So the reign of Charles I is known as Caroline age from 1625 to 1649. Who were the main writers? We have John Milton, we have Robert Burton, we have George Herbert. They are the notable figures of Caroline age. Now, coming to Commonwealth period, that is 1649 to 1660. What happens actually during this period? We have 1642 to 49. This is actually the Civil War, period in England, and this 1649 to 1660 is the Commonwealth period. You see, the reign of Charles I, there was a lot of resentment during the reign of Charles I. In the year 1649, Charles I was executed, and then the Commonwealth period started. So you see, in Commonwealth period, the main leader was Oliver Cromwell, who was a Puritan. So it was actually a Puritan-led, parliament who was ruling the nation at that time. Now, the important part was that public theatres were closed during this period. So you will keep mind this Commonwealth period. Public theatres were, and they were closed actually for 2 decades, almost 2 decades, and there was a lot of strictness and rigidity. So John Milton also and Thomas Hobbes also, they wrote their political writings during this period, and we have Thomas Fuller and Abraham Cowley also writing during Commonwealth period. So if you talk about the Renaissance period, the 4 parts: Elizabethan age from 1558 to 1603, then Jacobean age 1603 to 1625. Then Caroline age 1625 to 1649, then Commonwealth period, that is 1649 to 1660. I told you that this Caroline age is after the name of reign of Charles I, and Charles I was executed after the Civil War in 1649, and then the Puritan age started. And what happened actually when Charles I executed, Charles II actually fled to France. So, because there was the reign of Puritan, and it was led by Cromwell. Now, what happened in these 11 years from 1649 to 1660? The rule was of the Parliament, and there was a lot of rigidity, strictness, and all that. Public theatres were closed. Charles II fled to France, and you see, this was the development actually. Now, coming to the next part, the neoclassical period from 1660, actually it is 1660 to 1725. This is 1660. Now, so the neoclassical period is from 1660 to 1785. Now, this again, a neoclassical period, we have 3 parts: the Restoration age, the Augustan age, and the age of sensibility. Now, the Restoration age is from 1660 to 1700. The Augustan age is from 1700 to 1745. and the last, the age of sensibility, is from 1745 to 1785. So far we have covered Anglo-Saxon period from 450 to 1066, then Anglo-Norman 1066 to 1500, then the period of the Renaissance 1500 to 1660. Under the Renaissance, you have Elizabethan age 1558 to 1603, then Jacobean age 1603 to 1625, then Caroline age 1625 to 1649, Civil War period 1642 to 1649, and then the Commonwealth period from 1649 to 1660. Now coming to Neoclassical period from 1660 to 1785. Now, I'm telling you in chronological order so that you can better understand it. So, this neoclassical period is subdivided into ages. We have the Restoration age, that is from 1660 to 1700, Augustan age, 1700 to 1745, age of sensibility, 1745 to 1785. Now, what is this Restoration age? Restore means to bring back. So, what is the bringing back actually? This is to bring back the monarchy and to bring back Charles I from France. You see, as I told you that in 1649, Charles I was executed, and we have the rule of the Parliament in England, in the Commonwealth period from 1649 to 1660. But it did not continue for a very long time, and there was the need of the monarchy again. So Charles II was brought back to England. So bringing back of Charles II on the English throne is known as Restoration. Or to, bringing back of Charles II and bringing back of monarchy is actually the Restoration age. During Restoration age, tragedies and comedies were written. Tragedies were known as heroic tragedies, and comedies were known as comedies of manners. Now, this is very important. In which period comedy of manners was written. So comedy of manners were written during the Restoration age, and we have the important playwrights like William Congreve. So Congreve is known for The Way of the World, a very important comedy of manners. John Dryden wrote heroic tragedies. Satire was also very important literary genre which was introduced during this period. And the other important, writers of this period are Butler, Ephra Bain, Bunyan, John Locke, etc. After the Restoration age comes the Augustan age. Augustan age 1700 to 1745. Now you see, the term Augustan was first applied to the literature of 18th century, as I have just told you. This 18th century, which is called by Matthew Arnold as indispensable century. Now, why did they call this as Augustan age? Because the writers writing during this period compared themselves, this period they compared with the age of Emperor Augustus, which was the golden age in Latin literature in the Roman Empire. It was the age of Ovid, Virgil, Horace, and it was the golden age of Emperor Augustus. So they want to equate themselves, they want to compare themselves, or they want to put themselves in parallel with the reign of Emperor Augustus, which was the golden period of Latin literature. Now, as I told you that Virgil, Horace, and Ovid wrote, during that period, and these Augustans like Alexander Pope and Jonathan Swift, they were comparing themselves with the writers of that period, because that period was very prolific. This particular age is called the age of prose and reason by Matthew Arnold. I have told this sentence because in competitive examination sometimes these kind of questions are asked. Coming to the age of sensibility, 1745 to 1785. Now this particular age was dominated by Dr. Johnson, and that is why this is also known as the age of Johnson. So the age of sensibility is known as the age of Johnson. Johnson is Dr. Samuel Johnson, not Ben Johnson. And this was the time of the writings of Edmund Burke, Edward Gibbon, James Boswell, Samuel Johnson. And the particular thing was that this was also the period when a novel was brought out. we have the birth of the novel during this period. We have, for example, Samuel Richardson's novel Pamela Are Virtue Rewarded, which was published in 1740. And Henry Fielding wrote his Vicaris novels like Joseph and Rouge and Tom Jones. So we have Henry Fielding, we have Samuel Richardson, we have Tobias Smollett, we have Lawrence Stern. So these are the writers, the novelists who are called four wheels of English novel. So novel also, took birth, during this period. Now, this period also saw the traditional, poets. I'll tell you later about the Romantic poets. So the traditional poets, who were the traditional poets? Traditional poets were those poets in whose poetry we have the blend of Romantic qualities and the neoclassical qualities. I'll discuss the features of the neoclassical poetry and the Romantic poetry in my next video. But traditional poets were those poets in whose writings we have the blend of neoclassical traits and the Romantic traits. Dr. Johnson called them Romantic snakes in classical grass. So these are the important, poets: James Thomson, Oliver Goldsmith, Thomas Percy, Thomas Chatterton, Thomas Macpherson, Thomas Gray, William Collins. If you read Gray's Elegy, written a country churchyard, which was published in 1751, you will find out many qualities of neoclassical poetry and also the Romantic poetry. For example, the glorification of the common people is the Romantic trait, but the use of poetic diction is the neoclassical trait. So traditional poets were those poets in whose poetry we have the blend or the mixture of neoclassical traits and the Romantic traits. So it also emerged during this era. Now coming to the Romantic period. This is from 1785 to 1832. Now, sometimes, when I teach in my class, students also ask that what is the exact time period of the Romantic, Romantic period. So, sometimes it is 1785 or 89. So, I have just mentioned it here that, some claim it's 1785 because Dr. Johnson died in this particular year. And this previous age was dominated by Dr. Johnson. So 1785 you can say. Others say that no, it's 1785 because it was the beginning of the French Revolution movement, and French Revolution movement also played a very important role in the development of the Romantic poetry. And some say it's 1798, which is the publication date of lyrical ballads. It doesn't matter, but you will say that if you say 1785, you just give your logic, or if you say 1789, just tell. So Romantic period begins from 1785 or 89 or 98. I have given the reasons also. Now, this period ends with the passage of Reform Bill in 1832. So the passage of the Reform Bill is also an important historical event. Now, this era includes very important poets like Wordsworth, Coleridge, Blake. Blake is sometimes included in the pre-Romantic, the transitional poets: Lord Byron, Keats, Lamb, Mary Wollstonecraft, Shelley, De Quincey, Jane Austen, Hazlitt, etc. When you talk about the poetry, like say, for example, the three important poets, Wordsworth, Coleridge, and Sade, they are called elder romantics or the lake poets, and then we have Byron, Shelley, and Keats, who are called younger romantics. So I'll discuss romanticism in some other video. So we have the important poets and the writers writing during this. Jane Austen, for example, who is known for 2 Inches of Ivory Tower, wrote the important novels during this period. Similarly, Charles Lamb, known for his humor and pathos, known for the personal elements, who is called the Prince of English essayist, wrote during this period. Now, there's also a minor period which was popular during this period called, the Gothic era, that is from 1786 to 1800. This is called Gothic era because, the Gothic novels were written during this period. What are the Gothic novels? The novels of terror. Who are the important novelists? Matthew Lewis and Radcliffe and William Wakefield. Now coming to Victorian period, that is from 1832 to 1901. This is after the reign of Queen Victoria, who ascended on English throne in the year 1837. You can also say the Victorian period is from 1837 to 1901. But I have taken 1832 because the Reform Bill passed it during that year. So this year continued till the death of Queen Victoria in 1900, one. This age was basically the age of religious, intellectual, and economic developments. In this particular era, we have the publication of Origin of Species with Charles Darwin, which changed the religious temperament of the people. Now, this period has the early Victorians, mid-Victorians, and the late Victorians. Early from 1832 to 1848, mid 1848 to 1870, late 1870 to 1901. So you can subdivide it into three parts: early, mid, and late. Or you can also have two phases. That is, the first phase is Pre-raphaelites from 1848 to 1860. And then the second phase is aestheticism and decadence, that is 1880 to 1901. You can subdivide it, but the entire period is called Victorian period. Now, when you talk about the poets, so we have Robert Browning, for example, who is famous for his dramatic monologues. We have Christina Rossetti, we have Tennyson, we have Matthew Arnold. Generally, in your course, you have Browning, Tennyson, and Arnold, who is remarkable for the melancholic elements. As for the essays are concerned, we have Carlyle, we have Ruskin, we have Pater, and finally the important novels written by Charles Dickens, Bronte sisters, Gaskell, George Eliot, who wrote The Mill on the Floor, Thackeray, and Butler. So we have these important writers writing this period. Then comes the Edwardian period, that is 1901 to 1914. This is actually after the name of King Edward VII. It covers the period from between Victoria's death and the outbreak of World War I. That is from 1901 to 1914. The important poets who wrote during this period are, Kipling, for example, wrote during this period. W.B. Yeats also wrote during this period. We have some important dramatists like G.B. Shaw, John Galsworthy. Both are great problem playwrights. James Barrie, for example, wrote during this period. We have the novels of H.G. Wells, H.G. Wells, and Henry James, Joseph Conrad also, who wrote Heart of Darkness. So we have these writers writing during this period. Coming to the Georgian period from 1910 to 1936, and Georgian poets are Ralph Hodgson, John Masefield, Davis, and Rupert Brooke. Rupert Brooke is also sometimes called war poet. Then comes the modern period, that is the modern period, which comes with the beginning of the World War I, the period after 1914. Modern period, is important for bold experimentation with subject matter, style, and form. So I'll discuss in quite detail this period. My basic purpose is to tell you about the time period and also some important writers. So a modern period is, as I have just told you, it's there were the bold experimentations as far the subject matter is concerned, style is concerned, and form is concerned. And when you discuss about the technique and the core qualities of this modern period, then I always remember the lines from The Second Coming by W.B. Yeats. Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold, mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. So I think these lines are compressing in themselves the important qualities of the modern period. Now, some of the notable writers of this period, as for the novelists are concerned, we have James Joyce, Virginia Woolf, who wrote Stream of Consciousness novels. We have Huxley, we have D.H. Lawrence, we have Conrad, we have Dorothy Richardson, Graham Greene, E.M. Forster. These are the important, novelists. Poets are T.S. Eliot, Auden, Seamus, Heaney, Wilfred Owens, Dylan Thomas, and Robert Graves. And dramatists are Thomas Stoppard, G.B. Shaw, Beckett, Pinter, and Carroll Churchill. So these are the important writers writing down these. Then comes postmodern period, which comes after 1945, and it said it continues till 1990. So it's a very complicated, the period that I'll discuss in separate video. But just keep in mind, the postmodern period begins with the outbreak of just after the end of Second World War, and it is said that it's a direct response to modernism. And the important notable writers are Beckett, Joseph Heller, Anthony Burgess, etc. So this is in brief the development of history of English literature, the literary period. Just watch it 2-3 times, then you will understand the entire development of literature. Thank you very much.